still sleep deprived? Well, fret not, because today I will be reading to you until you fall deep asleep. That's right, we are back today with part 2 of Jazz by Toni Morrison. Jazz by Toni Morrison, yes. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1, go ahead and do that now. Or not, doesn't really matter. The point of these videos is for you to fall asleep anyway. So I want you to sit back, relax, close your eyes, and take the next hour to enjoy the beautiful prose of Miss Toni Morrison. I hope you all enjoy. Now let's get started. Okay, here we are. Let's read the last page just to get a refresher of where we left off. Extricating herself from these collapses is not too hard, because nobody presses her. Did they do the same? Maybe. Maybe everybody has a renegade tongue yearning to be on its own. Violet shuts up, speaks less and less until or have mercy carry almost all of her part of a conversation. Less excusable than a wayward mouth is an independent hand that can find in a parent's cage a knife lost for weeks. Violet is still as well as silent. Over time, her silences annoy her husband, then puzzle him, and finally depress him. He's married to a woman who speaks mainly to her birds, one of whom answers back, "I love you." Let's continue on. Or used to. When Violet threw out the birds, it left her not only without the canary's company and the parrot's confession, but also minus the routine of covering their cages, a habit that had become one of those necessary things for the night. The things that help you sleep all the way through it. Back-breaking labor might do it, or liquor. Surely a body, friendly if not familiar, lying next to you. Someone whose touch is a reassurance, not an affront or a nuisance. Whose heavy breathing neither enrages nor disgusts, but amuses you like that of a cherished pet. And rituals help too. Door locking, tidying up, cleaning teeth, arranging hair. But they're preliminaries to the truly necessary things. Most people want to crash into sleep, get knocked into it with a fist of fatigue to avoid a night of noisy silence. Empty bird cages that don't need wrapping in cloth, of bold, unsmiling girls staring from the mantelpiece. For Violet, who never knew that girl, only her picture and the personality she invented for her based on careful investigations, the girl's memory is a sickness in the house, everywhere and nowhere. There's nothing for Violet to beat or hit, and when she has to, just has to strike it somehow. There's nothing left but straw or a sepia print. But for Joe, it is different. That girl had been his necessary thing for 3 months of nights. He remembers his memories of her, how thinking about her as he lay in bed next to Violet was the way he entered sleep. He minds her death, is so sorry about it, but minded more the possibility of his memory failing to conjure up the dearness. And he knows it will continue to fade because it was already beginning to the afternoon he hunted Dorcas down. After she said she wanted Coney Island and rent parties and more in Mexico. Even then, he was clinging to the quality of her sugar-flood skin, the high wild bush the bed pillows made of her hair, her bitten nails, the heartbreaking way she stood, toes pointed in. Even then, listening to her talk, to the terrible things she said, he felt he was losing the timbre of her voice and what happened to her eyelids when they made love. Now he lies in bed, remembering every detail of that October afternoon when he first met her, from start to finish, and over. Not just because it is tasty, but because he's trying to sear her into his mind, brand her there against future wear, so that neither she nor the alive love of her will fade or scab over the way it had with Violet. For when Joe tries to remember the way it was when he and Violet were young, when they got married, decided to leave Esper County and move up north to the city, almost nothing comes to mind. He recalls dates, of course, events, purchases, activity, even scenes, but he has a tough time trying to catch what it felt like. He had struggled a long time with that loss, believed he had resigned himself to it, had come to terms with the fact that old age would not be remembering what things felt like, that you could say, I was scared to death, but you could not retrieve the fear, that you could replay in the brain the scene of ecstasy, of murder, of tenderness, but it was drained of everything but the language to say it in. He thought he had come to terms with that, but he had been wrong. When he called on Sheila to deliver her Cleopatra order, he entered a room full of laughing, teasing women, and there she was, standing at the door, holding it open for him. The same girl that had distracted him in the drugstore, the girl buying candy and ruining her skin, had moved him so his eyes burned. Then suddenly there, in Alice Manford's doorway, she stood, toes pointing in, hair braided, not even smiling, but welcoming him in for sure. For sure. Otherwise he would not have had the audacity, the nerve to whisper to her at the door as he left. It was a randy aggressiveness he had enjoyed because he had not used or needed it before. The ping of desire that surfaced along with his whisper through the closing door he began to curry. First he pocketed it, taking pleasure in knowing it was there. Then he unboxed it to bring out and admire at his leisure. He did not yearn or pine for the girl. Rather he thought about her and decided. Just as he had decided on his name, the walnut tree he and Victory slept in, a piece of bottom land, and went to head for the city, he decided on Dorcas. Regarding his marriage to Violet, he had not chosen that, but was grateful, in fact, that he didn't have to. That Violet did it for him, helping him escape all the Red Wings in the county and the ripe silence that accompanied them. They met in Vesper County, Virginia, under a walnut tree. She'd been working in the fields like everybody else, and stayed past picking time to live with a family 20 miles away from her own. They knew people in common, and suspected they had at least one relative in common. They were drawn together because they had been put together, and all they decided for themselves was when and where to meet at night. Violet and Joe left Tyrell, a railway stop through Vesper County, in 1906, and boarded the color section of the Southern Sky. When the train trembled approaching the water surrounding the city, they thought it was like them. Nervous at having gotten there at last, but terrified of what was on the other side. Eager, a little scared, they did not even nap during the 14 hours of a ride smoother than a rocking cradle. The quick darkness in the carriage cars when they shot through a tunnel made them wonder if maybe there was a wall ahead to crash into, or a cliff hanging over nothing. The train shivered with them at the thought, but went on, and sure enough, there was ground up ahead, and the trembling became the dancing under their feet. Joe stood up, his fingers clutching the baggage rack above his head. He felt the dancing better that way, and told Violet to do the same. They were hanging there, a young country couple, laughing and tapping back at the tracks, when the attendant came through, pleasant but unsmiling now that he didn't have to smile in this car full of colored people. Breakfast in the dining car, breakfast in the dining car. Good morning, full breakfast in the dining car. He held a carriage blanket over his arm, and from underneath it drew a pint bottle of milk, which he placed in the hands of a young woman with a baby asleep across her knees. Full breakfast. He never got his way, this attendant. He wanted the whole coach to file into the dining car, now that they could. Immediately, now that they were out of Delaware and a long way from Maryland, there would be no greenest poison curtain separating the colored people eating from the rest of the diners. The cooks would not feel obliged to pile extra helpings on the plates headed for the curtain. 3 lemon slices in the iced tea, 2 pieces of coconut cake arranged to look like one. To take the sting out of the curtain, homey it up with a little extra on the plate. Now, skirting the city, there were no green curtains. The whole car could be full of colored people and everybody on a first-come, first-served basis. If only they would. If only they would tuck those little boxes and baskets underneath the seat, close those paper bags for once, put the bacon-stuffed biscuits back into the cloth they were wrapped in, and troop single file through the 5 cars ahead on into the dining car, where the table linen was at least as white as the sheets they dried on juniper bushes, where the napkins were folded with a crease as stiff as the ones they ironed for Sunday dinner, where the gravy was as smooth as their own, and the biscuits did not take second place to the bacon-stuffed ones they wrapped in cloth. Once in a while it happened. Some well-shod woman with 2 young girls, a preacherly kind of man with a watch chain and a rolled-brim hat might stand up, adjust her clothes, and weave through the coaches toward the tables, foamy white with heavy silvery knives and forks. Presided over and waited upon by a black man who did not have to lace his dignity with a smile. Joe and Violet wouldn't think of it, paying money for a meal they had not missed, and that required them to sit still at, or worse, separated by a table. Not now. Not entering the lip of the city, dancing all the way. Her hip bones rubbed his thigh as they stood in the aisle, unable to stop smiling. They weren't even there yet, and already the city was speaking to them. They were dancing, and like a million others, chest pounding, tracks controlling their feet, they stared out the windows for the first sight of the city that danced with them, proving already how much it loved them. Like a million more, they could hardly wait to get there and love it back. Some were slow about it and traveled from Georgia to Illinois, to the city, back to Georgia, out to San Diego, and finally shaking their heads, surrendered themselves to the city. Others knew right away that it was for them. This city and no other. They came on a whim because there it was, and why not? They came after much planning, many letters written to and from, to make sure and know how and how much and where. They came for a visit and forgot to go back to tall cotton or short. Discharged with or without honor, fired with or without severance, dispossessed with or without notice, they hung around for a while and then could not imagine themselves anywhere else. Others came because a relative or hometown buddy said, "Man, you best see this place before you die," or "We got room now, so pack your suitcase and don't bring no high-top shoes." However they came, when or why, the minute the leather of their souls hit the pavement, there was no turning around. Even if the room they rented was smaller than the heifer stall and darker than a morning privy, they stayed to look at their number, hear themselves in an audience, feel themselves moving down the street among hundreds of others who moved the way they did, and who, when they spoke, regardless of the accent, treated language like the same intricate, malleable toy designed for their play. Part of why they loved it was the specter they left behind. The slumped spines of the veterans of the 27th Battalion, betrayed by the commander for whom they had fought like lunatics. The eyes of thousands, stupefied with disgust at having been imported by Mr. Armour, Mr. Swift, Mr. Montgomery Ward to break strikes, then dismissed for having done so. The broken shoes of 2,000 Galveston longshoremen that Mr. Mallory would never pay 50 cents an hour like the white ones. The praying palms, the raspy breathing, the quiet children of the ones who had escaped from Springfield, Ohio, Springfield, Indiana, Greensburg, Indiana, Wilmington, Delaware, New Orleans, Louisiana, after raving whites had foamed all over the lanes and yards of home. The wave of black people running from want and violence crested in the 1870s, the 80s, the 90s, but was a steady stream in 1906 when Joe and Violet joined in. Like the others, they were country people, but how soon country people forget. When they fall in love with a city, it is forever, and it is like forever. As though there never was a time when they didn't love it. The minute they arrive at the train station or get off the ferry and glimpse the wide streets and the wasteful lamps lighting them, they know they're born for it. There, in a city, they're not so much new as themselves. They're stronger, riskier selves. And in the beginning, when they first arrive, and 20 years later when they and the city have grown up, they love that part of themselves so much that they forget what loving other people was like. If they ever knew, that is. I don't mean they hate them, no. Just that what they start to love is the way a person is in the city. The way a schoolgirl never pauses at a stoplight but looks up and down the street before stepping off the curb. How men accommodate themselves to tall buildings and wee porches. What a woman looks like moving in a crowd. Or how shocking her profile is against the backdrop of the East River. The restfulness in kitchen chores when she knows the lamp oil or the staple is just around the corner and not 7 miles away. The amazement of throwing open the window and being hypnotized for hours by people on the street below. Little of that makes for love, but it does pump desire. The woman who churned a man's blood as she leaned all alone on a fence by a country road might not expect even to catch his eye in the city. But if she's clipping quickly down the big city street in heels, swinging her purse, or sitting on a stoop with a cool beer in her hand, dangling her shoe from the toe of her foot, the man, reacting to her posture, to soft skin on stone, the weight of the building stressing the delicate dangling shoe, is captured. And he'd think it was the woman he wanted, and not some combination of curved stone and a swinging high-heeled shoe moving in and out of sunlight. He would know right away the the trick of shapes and light and movement, but it wouldn't matter at all because the deception was part of it too. Anyway, he could feel his lungs going in and out. There's no air in the city, but there's breath. And every morning it races through him like laughing gas, brightening his eyes, his tuck, and his expectations. In no time at all, he forgets little pebbly creeks and apple trees so old they lay their branches along the ground and you have to reach down or stoop to pick the fruit. He forgets a sun that used to slide up like the yolk of a good country egg, thick and red-orange at the bottom of the sky. And he doesn't miss it, doesn't look up to see what happened to it, or to stars made irrelevant by the light of thrilling, wasteful street lamps. That kind of fascination, permanent and out of control, seizes children, young girls, men of every description, mothers, brides, and barfly women. And if they have their way and get to the city, they feel more like themselves, more like the people they always believed they were. Nothing can pry them away from that. The city is what they want it to be. Thriftlets, warm, scary, and full of amiable strangers. No wonder they forget pebbly creeks. And when they do not forget the sky, completely think of it as a tiny piece of information about the time of day or night. But I have seen the city do an unbelievable sky. Red caps and dining car attendants who wouldn't think of moving out of the city sometimes go on at great length about country skies they have seen from the windows of trains. But there's nothing to beat what the city can make of a night sky. It can empty itself of surface, and more like the ocean than the ocean itself, go deep, starless. Close up on the tops of buildings, nearer than the cap you're wearing, such a city sky presses and retreats, making me think of the free but illegal love of sweethearts before they're discovered. Looking at it, this night sky booming over a glittering city, it's possible for me to avoid dreaming of what I know is in the ocean, and the bays and tributaries it feeds. The two-seat aeroplanes, nose down in the muck, pilot and passenger staring at schools of passing bluefish. Money soaked and salty in canvas bags, or waving their edges gently. Oh my goodness, I'm falling asleep too. Or waving their edges gently for metal bands made to hold them forever. They're down there, along with yellow flowers that eat water beetles and eggs floating away from thrashing fins. Along with the children who made a mistake in the parents they chose, along with slabs of Carrera pried from unfashionable buildings. There are bottles, too, made of glass, beautiful enough to rival stars I cannot see above me, because the city sky has hidden them. Otherwise, if I wanted to, it could show me stars cut from the lame gowns of chorus girls, or mirrored in the eyes of sweethearts furtive and happy under the pressure of a deep, touchable sky. But that's not all a city sky can do. It can go purple and keep an orange heart so the clothes of the people on the streets glow like dance hall costumes. I've seen women stir shirts into bold starch or put the tiniest stitches into their hose while a girl straightens the hair of her sister at the stove. And all the while, heaven, unnoticed and as beautiful as an Iroquois, drifts past their windows, as well as the windows where sweethearts free and illegal tell each other things. 20 years after Joe and Violet train danced on into the city, they were still a couple, but barely speaking to each other, let alone laughing together, or acting like the ground was a dance hall floor. Convinced that he alone remembers those days and wants them back, of what it looked like, but not at all of what it felt like, he coupled himself elsewhere. He rented a room from a neighbor who knows the exact cost of her discretion. 6 hours a week he has purchased. Time for the city sky to move from a thin ice blue to purple with a heart of gold. And time enough, when the sun sinks, to tell his new love things he never told his wife. Important things like how the hibiscus smells on the bank of a stream at dusk, how he can barely see his knees poking through the holes in his trousers in that light, so it makes him think he can see her hand even if she did decide to shove it through the bushes and confirm for once and for all that she was indeed his mother. And even though the confirmation would shame him, it would make him the happiest boy in Virginia. If she decided, that is, to show him it, to listen for once to what he was saying to her and then do it, say some kind of yes, even if it was no, so he would know. And how he was willing to take that chance of being humiliated and grateful at the same time, because the confirmation would mean both. Her hand, her fingers poking through the blossoms, touching his, maybe letting him touch hers. He wouldn't have grabbed it, snatched it, and dragged her out from behind the bushes. Maybe that's what she was afraid of, but he wouldn't have done that, and he told her so. Just a sign, he said. Just show me your hand, he said, and I'll know, don't you know, I have to know. She wouldn't have to say anything, although nobody had ever heard her say anything. It wouldn't have to be words. He didn't need words or even want them because he knew how they could lie, could heat your blood and disappear. She wouldn't even have to say the word mother. Nothing like that. All she had to do was to give him a sign. Her hand thrust through the leaves. The white flowers would be enough to say that she knew him to be the one. The son she had 14 years ago and ran away from, but not too far. Just far enough away to annoy everybody because she was not completely gone, and close enough to scare everybody because she creeps about and hides and touches and laughs a low, sweet baby girl laugh in the cane. Maybe she did it. Maybe those were her fingers moving like that in the bush, not twigs, but in light so small he could not see his knees poking through the holes in his trousers. Maybe he missed the sign that would have been some combination of shame and pleasure, at least, and not the inside nothing he traveled with from then on, except for the fall of 1925 when he had somebody to tell it to. Somebody called Dorcas, with hooves tracing her cheekbones, and who knew better than people his own age what that inside nothing was like, and who filled it for him, just as he filled it for her, because she had it too. Maybe her nothing was worse since she knew her mother, and had even been slapped in the face by her for some sass she could not remember. But she did remember, and told him so, about the slap across her face, the pop and sting of it, and how it burned. How it burned, she told him. And of all the slaps she got, the one that was the one she remembered best, because it was the last. She leaned out the window of her best girlfriend's house because the shouts were not part of what she was dreaming. They were outside her head, across the street, like the running, everybody running, for water, buckets, the fire engine polished and poised in another part of town. There was no getting in that house where her clothespin dolls lay in a row, in a cigar box, but she tried anyway to get them. Barefoot in the dress she'd slept in, she ran to get them, and yelled to her mother that the box of dolls was up there on the dresser. Can we get them, Mama? She cries again, and Joe holds her close. The Iroquois sky passes the windows, and if they do see it, it crayon colors their love. That would be when, after a decent silence, he would lift his sample case of Cleopatra from the chair and tease her before opening it, holding up the lid so she could not see right away what he has hidden under the jars and perfume sweet boxes, the present he has brought for her. That is the little bow that ties up their day at the same time the city sky is changing its orange heart to black in order to hide its stars for the longest time before passing them out one by one, like gifts. By that time she's pushed back his cuticles, cleaned his nails, and painted them with clear polish. She's cried a little, talking about East St. Louis, and cheers herself up with his fingernails. She likes to know that the hands lifting and turning her under the blanket have been done by her, lotioned by her with cream from a jar of something from a sample case. She rears up and, taking his face in her hands, kisses the lids of each of his 2 color eyes. One for me, she says, and one for you. One for me, and one for you. Give me this, I give you that. Give me this, give me this. They try not to shout, but can't help it. Sometimes he covers her mouth with the palm of his hand so no one passing in the hall will hear her, and if he thinks of it in time, he bites the pillow to stop his own yell. If he can. Sometimes he thinks he's stopped it because the corner of the pillow is in his mouth all right, and then he hears himself breathing in and out, at the tail end of a shout that could only have come from his weary throat. She laughs at that, laughs and laughs before she straddles his back to pound it with her fists. Then, when she is exhausted and he half asleep, she leans down, her lips behind his ear, and makes plans. Mexico, she whispered. I want you to take me to Mexico. Too loud, he murmurs. No, she says, it's just right. How you know, he demands. I heard people say the tables are round and have white cloths over them and wee baby lampshades. It don't open till way past your bedtime, he says, smiling. This my bedtime, she says. Mexico people sleep in the day. Take me. They're in there till church time Sunday morning, and no white people can get in. And the boys who play sometimes get up and dance with you. Uh-oh, he says. What uh-oh, she asks. I just want to dance with you and then go sit at a round table with a lamp on it. People can see us, he says. Those little lamps you're talking about big enough to show who's there? You always say that, she giggles. Like last time, and nobody even looked at us. They were having such a good time. And Mexico's better even because nobody can see under the tablecloth, can they? Can they? If they don't want to dance, we can just sit there at the table looking sedately by the lamplight and listening to the music and watch the people. Nobody can see under the tablecloth. Joe, take me. Say you'll take me. How you gonna get out of the house, he asks. I'll figure it, she croons, just like always. Just say yes. Well, he says, well, no point in picking the apple if you don't want to see how it tastes. How does it taste, Joe? She asks. And he opens his eyes. The door's locked and Malvone will not be back from her 40th Street offices until way after midnight. A thought that excites them. That if it were possible, they could almost spend the night together. If Alice Manfred or Violet took a trip, say, then the two of them could postpone the gifts he gives her on into the darkest part of the night until, smelling of oxidol and paste wax, Malvone came back from her offices. As it is, having made their plans for Mexico, Dorcas tips out the door and down the steps before Violet has finished her evening heads, and come home around 7 to find that Joe has already changed the birds' water and covered their cages. On those nights, Joe does not mind laying awake next to his silent wife, because his thoughts are with this young girl, who both blesses his life and makes him wish he had never been born. Malvone lived alone with newspapers and other people's stories printed in small books. When she was not making her office building sparkle, she was melding the print stories with her keen observation of the people around her. Very little escaped this woman, who rode the trolley against traffic at 6 p.m., who examined the trash baskets of powerful white men, looked at photographs of women and children on their desks, heard their hallway conversation and the bathroom laughter penetrating the broom closet like fumes from her bottle of ammonia. She examined their bottles and resituated the flask tucked under cushions and behind books whose words were printed in 2 columns. She knew who had a passion for justice as well as ladies' undergarments, who loved his wife and who shared one, the one who fought with his son and would not speak to his father, for they did not cover the mouthpiece when they talked on the telephone to ask her to leave as she inched her way down the halls into their offices, nor did they drop their voices to confidential whispers when they worked late doing what they called the real business. But Malvone was not interested in them. She simply noticed. Her interest lay in the neighborhood people. Before Sweetness changed his name from William Younger to Little Caesar, he robbed a mailbox on 130th Street. Looking for postal notes, cash, or what, Malvone couldn't imagine. She had raised him from the time he was 7, and a better behaved nephew no one could have wished for. In the daytime, anyway. But some of the things he got into during Malvone's office shift from 6 to 2:30 a.m. she would never know. Others she learned after he left for Chicago, or was it San Diego, or some other city ending with O. One of the things she learned explained where her grocery bag had gone. The 20-pound salt sack she carried, nicely laundered and folded in her purse to market. When she found it behind the radiator in Sweetness's room, it was full of uncancelled letters. As she examined them, her first impulse was to try to reseal and refold their contents and get them quickly into a mailbox. She ended, however, by reading each one, including those Sweetness had not bothered to tear open. Except for the pleasure of recognizing the signatures, the reading turned out to be flatly uninteresting. Dear Helen Moore, questions about Helen's health, answers about the writer's own, weather, deceptions, promises, love, and then the signer, as though Helen received so much mail, had so many relatives and friends she couldn't remember them all, identified her or himself in large slanting script, your devoted sister, Mrs. Something Something, or your loving father in New York, L. Henderson Woodward. A few of them required action on Malvone's part. A vocational school student had sent a matchbook application to a correspondence law school, along with the required but now missing dollar bill. Malvone didn't have $1 to spare for Lila Spencer's entrance fee, but she did worry that if the girl did not get to be a lawyer, she would end up with an apron job. So she added a note in her own hand saying, I do not have the $1 right this minute, but as soon as I hear that you received this application and agree that I should come, I will have it by then if you tell me you don't have it and really need it. The sad moment came when she read the letter to Panama from Winsome Clark, complaining to her husband, who worked in the canal zone, about the paltriness and insufficiency of the money he had sent her. Money of so little help, she was giving up her job, picking up the children, and returning to Barbados. Mavon could feel the wall of life pressed up against the woman's palms, feel her hand bashed tender from pounding it, her hips constrained by the clutch of small children. I don't know what to do, she wrote. Nothing I do makes a difference. Auntie made a racket about everything. I'm beside myself. The children is miserable as me. The money you sent in cannot keep us all afloat. Us drowning here, and may as well drown at home where your mother is, and mine, and big trees. Oh, thought Malvon, she dreams of big trees in Barbados, bigger than those in the park? Must be jungle for sure. Winsome said she was sorry your good friend dead in the big fire, and pray for he and you. How come so much colored people dying where whites doing great stuff? I guess you thinking that ain't no grown person question. Send anything else you get to Wyndham Road where I and babies be to pay envelopes from now. Sonny says he have shoe shining money for his own passage, so don't worry none except to stay among the quick. Your dearest wife, Mrs. Winsome Clark. Mavoni didn't know Winsome or anybody on the 300 block of Edgecombe Avenue, although one building there was full of rich West Indians who kept pretty much to themselves, and from whose windows came the order of seasonings she didn't recognize. The point now was to get Winsome's notice of departure, already 2 pay envelopes ago, to Panama before any more cash went to Edgecombe where the aunt might get a hold of it, and who knows if she was as hateful as Winsome told it, watering down the children's milk on the sly and whipping the 5-year-old for mishandling the hot, heavy pressing iron. She might keep the money for herself. Mavon resealed the letter carefully and thought she would add another penny stamp in case that would help get it to Panama faster. There was only one letter to sweat over, and to wonder about the woman who could write down such words, let alone do what she had done and promised more of. The writer lived in the same building as her lover. Mavon did not know what made her waste a 3-cent stamp other than the pleasure of knowing the government was delivering her heat. Perspiring and breathing slightly, Mavon forced herself to read the letter several times. The problem was whether to send on to Mr. M. Sage. That was what he was called on the envelope. On the sheet of tablet paper he was called Daddy. His letter from You're Always Hot Steam. A month had passed since it was written, and Steam might be wondering if she'd gone too far. Or had Daddy Sage and Steam done more of those low-down sticky things in the meantime? Finally, she decided to mail it with a note of her own attached, urging caution and directing Daddy's attention to a clipping from Opportunity magazine. It was while she was preparing this anonymous advice that Joe Trace knocked on her door. How you doing, Malvon? Not complaining. How about you? Can I step in? Got a proposition for you. He smiled his easy country smile. I don't have a nickel, Joe. No. He held up his hand and walked past her into the living room. I'm not selling, see? I don't even have my case with me. Oh, well then. Malvon followed him to the sofa. Have a seat. But if I was, he said, what would you like? If you had a nickel, I mean. That purple soap was kind of nice. You got it. Wait in a flash, though, said Malvon. Fancy soap is fancy, not meant to last. Guess not. I got 2 left. I'll bring them up right away. What brings this on? You ain't selling. You giving away free for what reason? Malvon looked at the clock on the mantel, figuring out how much time she had to talk to Joe and get her letters mailed before leaving for work. A favor, you might say. Or I might not say. You will. It's a favor to me, but a little pocket change for you. Malvona laughed. Out with it, Joe. This something Violet ain't in on? Well, this is, Vi's, I'm not going to disturb her with this, you know? No. Tell me. Well, I'd like to rent your place. What? Just an afternoon or 2 every now and then, while you at work, but I'll pay for the whole month. What you up to, Joe? You know I work at night. Maybe it was a trick name and a trick address, and Joe was Daddy picking up mail somewhere else and telling Steam his name was Sage. I know your shift's at night, but you leave at 4. If it's nice enough to walk, I do. Most time I catch the 5:30. I wouldn't be every day, Malvon. I wouldn't be no day. I don't think I like what you're proposing. $2 each and every month. You think I need your money or your flimsy soap? No, Malvon. Look, let me explain. Ain't many women like you understand the problems men have with their wives. What kind of problem? Well, Violet, you know how funny she's been since her change. Violet funny way before that. Funny in 1920, as I recall. Yeah, well, but now, Joe, you want to rent Sweetness's room to bring another woman in here while I'm gone just 'cause Violet don't want no part of you? What kind of person you think I am? Okay, there's no love lost between Violet and me, but I take her part, not yours, you old dog. Listen here, Malvone. Who is she? Nobody. I mean, I don't know yet. I just thought, if you lucked up on some fool, you'd have a place. That's what you thought? Sorta. I may not ever use it, but I'd like it in case. I'd pay the money whether I used it or not. 50 cents in certain houses gets you the woman, the floor, the walls, and the bed. $2 gets you a woman on a store-bought scooter if you want it. Oh, no, Malvone, no, you got me all wrong. I don't want nobody off the street, good Lord. No? Who do you think but a streetwalker go traipsing off with you? Malvone, I'm just hoping for a lady friend, somebody to talk to. Up over Violet's head. Why you ask me a woman for a hot bed? Seems like you'd want to ask some nasty man like yourself for that. I thought about it, but I don't know no man live alone and it ain't nasty. Come on, girl, you're driving me to the street. What I'm asking is better, ain't it? Every now and then I visit with a respectable lady. Respectable? That's right, respectable. Maybe she's lonely, though, or got children, or a husband with a hammer. Nobody like that. And if Violet finds out, what am I supposed to say? She won't. Suppose I tell her. You won't. Why would you do that? I'm still taking care of her. Nobody getting hurt. And you get 2 quarters as well as somebody looking out for your place while you're gone in case Sweetness come back or somebody come in here looking for him and don't care what he tear up because you're a woman. Violet would kill me. You don't have nothing to do with it. You never know when I come and you won't see anything. Everything be like it was when you left, except if there's some little thing you want fixed you want me to do. You won't see nothing but some change on the table there that I leave for a reason you don't know nothing about, see? Try me, Malvone. 1 week. No, 2. If you change your mind anytime, just leave my money on the table and I'll know you mean to stop. And sure as you live, your door key will be lying in its place. It's your house. You tell me what you want done, what you want fixed, and tell me what you don't like. But believe me, girl, you won't know when or if I come or go. Except maybe your faucet don't drip no more. Only thing you know is every Saturday starting now, you got 2 more quarters to put in your sugar bowl. Mighty high price for a little conversation. You'd be surprised what you can save if you like me and don't drink, smoke, gamble, or tithe. Maybe you should. I don't want nothing ornery, and I don't want to be hanging out in clubs and such. I just want some nice female company. You seem mighty sure you're going to find it. Joe smiled. If I don't, still no harm at all. No messages. What? No notes to pass, no letters. I'm not delivering any messages. Of course not, I don't want a pen pal. We talk here or we don't talk at all. Suppose something comes up and you want, or she wants to call it off. Don't worry about that. Suppose she gets sick and can't come and needs to let you know. I wait, then I leave. Suppose one of the kids gets sick and nobody find the mama because she holed up somewhere with you. Who say she got kids? Don't you take up with no woman if her kids is little, Joe. All right. It's asking too much of me. You don't have to think about none of it. You ain't in it. You ever see me mess with anybody? I've been in this building longer than you have. You ever hear a word against me from any woman? I sell beauty products all over town. You ever hear tell of me chasing a woman? No. You never heard that because it never happened. Now I'm trying to lighten my life a little with a good lady, like a decent man would, that's all. Tell me what's wrong with that. Violet's wrong with it. Violet takes better care of her parrot than she does me. The rest of the time she's cooking pork I can't eat, or pressing hair I can't stand the smell of. Maybe that's the way it goes with people been married long as we have. But the quiet. I can't take it, the quiet. She don't hardly talk anymore, and I ain't allowed near her. Any other man be running around stepping out every night, you know that. I ain't like that. I ain't. Of course he wasn't, but he did it anyway. Sneaked around, plotted, and stepped out every night the girl demanded. They went to Mexico. Sooks and clubs whose names changed every week. And he was not alone. He became a Thursday man, and Thursday men are satisfied. I can tell from their look some outlaw love is about to be, or already has been satisfied. Weekends and other days of the week are possibilities, but Thursday is a day to be counted on. I used to think it was because domestic workers had Thursdays off and could lie abed mornings, as was out of the question on weekends, when either they slept in the houses they worked in or rose so early to arrive they had no time for breakfast or any kind of play. Oh, missed something. But I noticed it was also true of men whose women were not servants and day workers, but barmaids in restaurants, restaurant cooks with Sunday, Monday free, school teachers, cafe singers, office typists, and market stall women, all looked forward to Saturday off. The city thinks about and arranges itself for the weekend. The day before payday, the day after payday, the pre-Sabbath activity, the closed shop and the quiet school hall, barred bank vaults and offices locked in darkness. So why is it on Thursday that the men look satisfied? Perhaps it's the artificial rhythm of the week. Perhaps there's something so phony about the 7-day cycle the body pays no attention to it, preferring triplets, duets, quartets, anything but a cycle of 7 that has to be broken into human parts, and the break comes on Thursday. Irresistible. The outrageous expectations and inflexible demands of the weekend are null on Thursday. People look forward to weekends for connections, revisions, and separations, even though many of these activities are accompanied by bruises and even a spot of blood, for excitement runs high on Friday or Saturday. But for satisfaction pure and deep, for balance and pleasure and comfort, Thursday can't be beat, as is clear from the capable expression on the faces of the men and their conquering stride in the street. They seem to achieve some sort of completion on that day that makes them steady enough on their feet to appear graceful even if they're not. They command the center of the sidewalk, whistle softly in unlit doors. It doesn't last, of course, and 24 hours later they're frightened again and restoring themselves with any helplessness within reach. So the weekends, destined to disappoint, are strident, sullen, sprinkled with bruises and dots of blood. The regrettable things, the coarse and sour remarks, the words that become active boils in the heart, none of that takes place on Thursday. I suppose the man for whom it is named would hate it, but the fact is his day is a day of love in the city and the company of satisfied men. They make the women smile. The tunes whistled through perfect teeth are remembered, picked up later and repeated at the kitchen stove. In front of the mirror near the door, one of them will turn her head to the side and sway, enchanted with her waistline and the shape of her hips. Up there in that part of the city, which is the part they came for, the right tune whistled in a doorway or lifting up from the circles and grooves of a record can change the weather from freezing to hot to cool. All right, and we will end it right there. There's little chapter breaks ever so often, and that'll be it for part 2. So we're delving a little bit deeper into Violet and Joe's history, how he met this young girl, how he kind of orchestrated this whole situation. A little background on Joe, I guess he has some parental issues that have gone unaddressed. But yes, I'm enjoying jazz a lot so far. Toni Morrison really knows how to paint a vivid picture and is so attuned to the expression of human emotion. So we'll see how Violet, Joe, and Dorcas's relationship expands from here in part 3. I hope you'll join me for that one too. But for now, I hope you are deep asleep, or at the very least, very, very relaxed. I thank you so much for joining me once again. Again, I will be reading the entirety of this book, so if you're enjoying this, feel free to follow along with me. Subscribe and like the video, and so on and so forth. For now, I wish you a very, very good night, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.